The way that works is 8 hours in the morning for detox from 4 a.m. to noon. Appropriate from noon to 6. The reason you stop eating around 6 is because it takes 2 hours to get out of your stomach if your last meal is a big dinner and proteins and different things.
This is a special episode as I get to go to Tyler Tolman's home here in Bali and sit down with him to give you the answers for when it comes to fasting, when it comes to detox, and when it comes to you being able to take control of your health. Hi, I'm Chris Dufay and you're watching Breaking Success. This is the show that gives you the answers for you to build the body, the business, and the life that you love. In this episode, we talk about the importance of fasting and how you can apply it into your busy everyday life. Plus, we talk about the 4 important phases of detox and Tyler's very own morning routine for him to be able to boost his own health.
How do you usually wake up?
Naturally, when I'm really healthy, like 5:30, 5:30, 6 o'clock. I also have a 5-year-old, so she gets up at the same time, 5:30, 6 o'clock. Yeah.
And then what's the process? What's the step?
So for me, I wake up, breathe. I always have a liter of water just in my bed. Maybe I've had a little bit through the night. But yeah, I'll just start hydrating, kind of stretching, moving, play around with my daughter and wife a little bit, and then I'll typically, see what kind of messages, what I got going on for the day on my phone, and then I jump straight up and hydrate more, move my body a little bit. So I do a little series called Shake and Bake. It's just kind of like getting fluids into all my joints, stretching out, opening all the meridians in my body, and then I'm typically straight out the door to go walk. I'm all about like mental, emotional, physical, social, financial, betterment, evolving. So that's where I'm like really mental. So I'll put in my headphones. So I'm doing kind of a mental, physical. I'm walking and I'm educating myself either in history or nutritional books, science books, long-lived culture books. Genetics, all these sorts of things, longevity.
There's so many great topics to be able to go down.
Totally. And it's like every day is an opportunity to be educating ourselves, at least within the first hour of day. And that really gets us mentally like dreaming and scheming and learning. And then, I typically will have a topic for the day of, something that's like, oh wow, this really brought this thing up for me, this long-lived culture, this is the way they live. For example, today I was just watching a video on the Okinawans. Okinawans are one of the longest lived cultures on the planet. They're looking at their lifestyle after World War II. They pretty much with all the stuff that was going on, lost the ability to do a lot of things, and they pretty much lived on sweet potatoes. Wow. Sweet potatoes like 60 to 70% of their diet. Wow. Sweet potatoes are like super high in anthocyanins, which is like a antioxidant that's amazing. It's also in the doctrine of signatures where certain fruits look like different body parts. It represents the pancreas. So our pancreas is the direct involvement of like insulin sensitivity, which is one of the main factors in longevity. So developing good insulin sensitivity through intermittent fasting, through supporting our body with good nutrition, plant-based whole foods. Obviously they have some of the longest lived people, centurions they call them. The centurion women there living to be 100. There's I think more on the planet in Okinawa than anywhere else.
Wow.
And when you really look at their diet, people think, oh well, it's southern Japan, they must be eating lots of fish, eating lots of ocean seafood. And when they actually did actual research, it was less than 1% of all of their caloric intake coming from seafood and fish and these sorts of things. They're actually just eating mainly sweet potatoes, but then other, soy products and other types of, plant-based materials and a little bit of fish and things like that. So my morning routine is just like every day waking up and inspiring myself with some type of content. Long walk. I'll typically get, an organic black coffee. I might have a little bit of honey in it sometimes. And then that just gives me that extra little kick. I think that certain things like that, like teas, green tea, black tea, potentially coffee, are designed for kind of like a morning experience.
Yes.
because you'll find, anybody that has these sorts of things finds that it activates the digestive system. You have a really good movement. It's kind of like your body goes into detox.
Yeah.
So a conversation I'd like to have is like the cycles our body goes through.
Yes.
There's 3 different 8-hour cycles. And the Greeks followed this, ancient Egyptians followed this. There's a group called the Essenes, which were a sect of the Egyptian culture that lived just outside of Babylon. And there's something called the Dead Sea Scrolls, which were documents that were found from the Essenes. Now, the Essenes were known to be like a group where if you were in Babylon at the time and had leprosy or some type of disease, these guys, you could go there and they would fully like take you in and take you to the river and help you to detoxify and clean your body and fast and like teach you some really profound principles of life and health and these sorts of things. So because the Essene Gospel of Peace is like this little tiny book, when I was 16, it was the first book I actually read. Because my dad had this like massive library and it was this little tiny book. I was like, oh, I can read that,
I will say, and I'm happy for this to be on camera as well, I was totally oblivious to who your father was until actually watching a few documentaries 2 weeks ago. And I was like, God, oh my God, okay, like, totally like, and I'm just really totally immersed in everything, so keep going.
Yeah, cool. So I was raised on my own with my mother for the first, 13 years of my life before I really got to know who my father was.
Yeah.
So it gave me that good contrast of like standard American diet, called SAD, Standard American Diet. And, by the time I was even, barely a teenager, I was already having the, low effects of McDonald's and all of these other types of food, present day schooling, all that type of stuff. So then I was really inspired by my father. But to get back to these 3 cycles, 3 8-hour periods, if we naturally kind of look at how our body operates and we live in attunement kind of with nature, our body wants to go through 3 main stages. Detoxification, that allows the body time to detox from everything that we took in yesterday. And the thing we got to understand is even if you're eating really healthy food, our body still has to detox from the process of digesting food, from the process of using energy in every cell in our body, 100 trillion of them, producing X amount of acid. Our body still needs to detox from that and then start the process over. So where I feel like people interrupt with the detox process every day, which accumulates metabolic toxicity, which I can share some of the science on and the process of aging and all that. But essentially our body wants to work in these 3 stages: detoxification, appropriation, bringing in of nutrients and fluids and things that we need, and then assimilation. So if we honor these 3 8-hour periods in attunement with our body, at 4 o'clock in the morning, our body radically starts into the process of detoxification. So what this means, when you wake up in the morning, typically you'll have a little bit of thick film on your tongue, maybe you stink a little bit, you feel kind of groggy, headachy, or depending on the individual and the level of they need to detox, they really feel like lead getting out of bed. That means you haven't been supporting detox. If you wake up chipper, you're jumping out of bed, you feel good, bright and ready to go at 5:30 in the morning, that is the actual natural human experience. So that's why I said before, it's like, when do you wake up? Well, when I'm really healthy and I'm onto it, 5:30, even 5 o'clock rolls around, it's like, bing, hello.
That's really funny because I woke up this morning and I was like, what time is it? And so anyway, my wife and daughters at the time were actually back in Australia right now. I was like, what time is it? I was like, and I normally don't like looking at the time because I don't want the light to come on. I was like, oh my God, and it was 5 o'clock and I was like, I'm so awake. Like, I was like, I'm just going to get up now.
Exactly. And that's the thing, like, we're so entrained, like, oh, it's 5 o'clock, I could sleep another hour, or I could sleep another hour and a half. And typically when you do, you feel even more like crap. When you get up later, you're like, oh, I probably should have just gotten up at 5, because then I would just, be
Is that because you went out of rhythm with the cycle?
Yeah, so you're basically starting a new cycle by going back to sleep. And it just, creates a little bit more tiredness. And that's just obvious. Anybody who's healthy who gets up naturally like 5 o'clock, if they try to go back to bed, they'll wake up at 6 or 6:30 feeling more tired. So my suggestion would be, as soon as you like really wake up, like if you wake up because you got to pee or some other reason, like you can do that and go back to sleep. or rest a little bit more. So essentially at 4 o'clock is when our body's cycles start to change into detoxification, assuming you haven't eaten into the night.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Like if we follow the natural cycle. So what we want to do is support detoxification. If our body naturally wants to be in detoxification in the morning, let's support that.
Yeah.
In fact, let's get the detoxification done as soon as possible, and then you could go into other stages of appropriating new nutrition and all this sorts of things. So the idea is everything I do in the morning, I want to support detox, which is perfect. I think most people find this lifestyle naturally. They wake up, you hydrate, you go move your body, you start to exercise, maybe you do some yoga, you do some strength training, you do some high intensity training, and you crack on with supporting detox. So how do we detox? Well, there's 4 channels of detoxification: defecation, urination, perspiration, respiration. So if I can go poo, I can go pee, I can sweat, and I breathe deeply and consciously, these 4 things are radically going to increase my level of detoxification first thing in the morning, so that I'm ready to start appropriating new foods. Now, if I just drink water, I hydrate, maybe have a little coffee or tea, something like this, it's actually forcing the sugars into the cells to be utilized. My body goes into a level of ketosis, which is burning fat. Ketones feed my brain and make me smarter. And there's a level of, if you don't have a lot of adipose tissue or fat, your body actually goes into a scientific stage called autophagy. Autophagy is where our cells start to actually regenerate themselves. Now, the reason this is so important is because, let's say we're eating a lot of protein, we're trying to build muscle, we're eating lots of food. It doesn't even matter what it is. We're eating a lot, consuming a lot, and trying to build muscle. Our cells are replicating very quickly. And it's boosting something called IGF-1 in the liver so that we can grow quickly. Insulin-like growth factor, which is the number 1 cause of aging, because every time your cells reproduce, there's DNA, and at the end of the DNA there's a little cap called telomere, and the telomere shrinks just a tiny, tiny, tiny little bit of it's being used every time it replicates. So if you're constantly in I want to grow, I want to grow, I want to grow, into your 20s, into your 30s, into your 40s, like those telomeres are shrinking, and therefore your metabolism's going down, the information's not replicatable. So what I'm getting at is this is also one of the greatest things you can do for longevity, because if you intermittent fast, meaning you skip breakfast, you support detoxification. Like I said, once you've trimmed down a lot of the excess adipose tissue, because the body would just be in ketosis optimally for people who are fat, which is great. You reduce the fat tissue, ketones feed the brain. There's a level of what are called embryonic style stem cells that are released that create regeneration of the body, but they're not going to have their cells regenerating through autophagy. So this is what every human being should look forward to if we radically want to extend our lifespan and generally stay youthful and beautiful and strong.
The quality of life as well.
Absolutely. The thing is, I talk about all the time some of these university research studies where they use rhesus monkeys and apes, and they're fast them one day and feed them the next, fast them one day and feed them the next. I don't think that's sustainable for humans. But the research and what they're showing is their ability to radically extend their lifespan, potentially 30, 40%. So when that translates to humans, if you could live a generally healthy life to 100, if you implement this cycled fasting, which we can do every day, it doesn't need to be like the way they design these models, and it's, again, the way cultures lived thousands of years ago. 30 to 40% translates to living to be 130 or 140. Now, if you say that, most people are like, well, I don't want to live to be 130, because I'm going to be some old decrepit thing walking around that just wants to die. But, forget all that. The quality of life, the vitality, the strength, the clarity that you experience now through the cells regenerating themselves, through the process of ketosis and regeneration of embryonic style stem cells, all proven, by the way, which I have the scientific literature to share from the University of Southern California, whole biological laboratories at the University of Chicago. Like all this research that's coming out is mind-boggling. And again, it's getting back to living a simply daily lifestyle that supports detoxification. So if I drink a lot of water when I first wake up and go for a walk, I'm going to have a good bowel movement. Even if I have a little coffee, I'm going to have a bigger bowel movement. I'm going to sweat more. I'm now going to push myself to exercise and do some strength training or jiu-jitsu and really sweat and scrub my skin and breathe deeply. You know, I was even thinking about today as I was in there doing strength training, which I haven't done for a month while I've been on tour. Like, you know, I'm doing body weight exercise and walking essentially just to get the basics. But I was sitting there just like, you know, strength trainers, you know, when you're strength training, you're consciously breathing deeply. In. It's like you're consciously breathing, oxygenating the body, getting rid of all that acid. So the idea is every morning we want to poo, we want to pee, we want to breathe deeply, and we want to sweat. That would be the most optimal. You know, and a lot of people are like, oh, I don't want to have to run, or I don't have to do whatever to break a sweat. Well, get yourself an infrared sauna. You know, I've got an infrared sauna, and even though I live in Bali and I'm sweating, I'm going to go take it to the next level and radically detox from the day before. Interesting conversation this brings up. Wolf of Wall Street. Who likes Wolf of Wall Street? You know, amazing movie, especially for guys. Like, oh wow, you know, every guy's dream. Minus the, you know, destroying your body and killing and wrecking everything. But one interesting statement was like, you know, how do you do all this cocaine and drink that much and do all these drugs and survive year after year after year? And one statement, you know, that DiCaprio made is this individual is like, I'd wake up every morning, I would exercise, go sit in the sauna and sweat out all the drugs from yesterday and then start over. And it's like, well, at least he had his morning ritual down. And there's actually some truth to that. You could actually maintain a level of toxicity every day if you detox the next morning, you exercise, you sweat it out, you know, hydrate, breathe, you know, do all these sorts of things. It's going to take a lot longer before it's too much. You know, I wouldn't recommend any of those drugs or any of those things, but he had his morning routine down. So that's the idea, is if I can, let's say I wake up at 6 o'clock in the morning, if I can be supporting detoxification optimally, at least for the first hour. You know, most people like, you know, okay, I could, you know, wake up an hour earlier and really incorporate this into my lifestyle, no matter what I do for work. You know what I mean? If you have to be off to work at 7 o'clock in the morning, make sure you do wake up an hour early, or 30 minutes. At least start with like 30 minutes of moving the body, breathing deeply, hydrating properly, before you wreck yourself with a coffee. Like some people are just drinking coffee straight when they wake up in the morning.
Coffee out the door.
Yeah, totally. Or, you know, bacon and eggs. And so the thing is, like, our body will detox until we consume calories or really a lot of sugars and things, because then the body has to go back into digestion. And people feel better. They're like, oh, well, I couldn't skip breakfast because I feel like shit in the morning until I eat, and then I feel great. Well, the reason is because your body's trying to detox. That's why you feel like shit.
It's like it's the symptom showing you need to do it more.
Totally. We want to. If you feel like crap, you need to support that more to get it out, not suppress it so that you feel even more like crap tomorrow. But people don't get this, so they'll have their bacon and eggs and their orange juice or whatever it is, and they go into digestion, which takes them out of detox. Oh, I feel so much better. But really, so the idea is to really support detoxification and do as much as possible before having our food stuff. Now, I believe optimally, we would wait until 10, 11, or even 12. Now, if you look back at the ancient culture called the Essenes, they said, if you never want to experience sickness, they actually say, you will never experience sickness if you wait till the sun is highest in the sky before you eat. And then having food just before the sun sets. So basically they're saying, well, look, you know, the most optimal way of living where we're not going to accumulate toxicity and eventually get the flu, which is opening up the vents and letting all this body flu out and, having to heat up and kill all the bad bacteria and get rid of all the crap that we've accumulated. We can do that every day, vent the body every day by sweating, by breathing, by pooing, by peeing. So, in my opinion, the most optimal thing would be to wait till 12 and then start to take in calories and be eating between 12 and about 6 or 7 o'clock. And the most optimal form of detoxification would just be mainly water, or maybe like a non-caloric, not too much sugars in a coffee or tea sort of thing, along with lots of hydration. Do you see kind of like the coffees and teas, and obviously like the caffeine stimulants is more yang, so that should be more AM based, and then the more yin is more obviously PM based? Because obviously, like, we were talking about coffee before, and I was like, obviously I'll have a coffee in the morning or two, but then in the evenings I found making like some ginger and turmeric tea to be really good, just to help wind me down as well at the end of the day. Do you find is that working for people, and that's kind of like fitting with the way you think? Yeah, it's fitting for me, and I find people who already like to have a coffee or tea, like if you change too much and take all these things away, they just crash and they're not motivated and they're not doing anything. So it's like, I do believe we should wake up and be in that yang energy of like, smash it out, move the body, get going, like, get everything operating, and then transitioning, with more juices, more rooting, more, yin type of activities and things in the afternoon. So having that bit of balance. So the idea is then we're in appropriation, which is the taking in of nutrition. Now the thing is if we wait till noon, or it's not a religion, like it doesn't have to be 12 o'clock. Like if you're really genuinely hungry at 10 or 11, I recommend at that time maybe starting with some fresh fruit. And I've got this massive plate of fruit over here. It's like all these antioxidants, all these hydrating materials for the body to get the digestive system working. It's like, first let's just put in a little bit of easily digestible food, and then after that, when all of our antioxidant stores, our vitamins, minerals, and these sorts of things are up, then our body's ready to really take in more of the dense proteins and fats and some of these other types of things. So that's what I would recommend. And what we find is that insulin sensitivity goes way up, which means our body can deal with sugars much better when we have that fasting time. Protein utilization goes way up. IGF-1 comes way down, and the cells start to regenerate themselves. And if you look at people that are actually living these lifestyles, for example, there's this guy named Noon Amen Ra. I'm sure maybe you've checked him out online. This guy for 12 years has taken it to the next level, which is 1 meal a day. So he eats within a 1 hour window. And the idea is the protein utilization that the body gets used to, and its insulin sensitivity, everything's just ready so that when you do have that one meal, maybe for an hour, taking it slow, it just like utilizes every bit of that nutrition optimally, and then the body detoxes and goes through these other processes. There's heaps of science about intermittent fasting in conjunction with high intensity training as well. Getting a 2,000% increase in human growth hormone, which is a different hormone produced by the pineal gland, which makes us feel young and makes us feel healthy. And then if you're doing high intensity training in conjunction with intermittent fasting, then whatever strength training you do is going to be so much more effective for whatever you're doing. So Noon Amen Ra, for example, is doing deadlifts and Olympic lifting, weightlifting, and he's number one pound for pound the strongest guy on the planet. So this is where I say money talks and bullshit walks. If this guy's eating 1 meal a day and is absolutely ripped, still looks super young, he's a PhD in public health. So like he's not looking at the ancient past, he's looking at the science. He's solely just reading science. And if you read his books, he writes in like scientific jargon. And because I've read science for so long, because I deal with cancer patients and all these people, and I have to read through the science and educate myself constantly, I totally understand what he's writing. But most people I turn them on to are just like,
Boy. Yeah.
I can't even read. Yeah. They like read the first page of this thing like, well, it sounds amazing, but I have no clue what he's talking about.
You get to the end of the page and go,
exactly.
Gotta do that again.
So that's where it's like, I'm trying to bridge the gap of the science world and like layman, hey, just do this.
Yeah.
And you will see and feel the results after you detox. Yes, you're going to feel like shit for the first couple weeks or a month because you haven't been supporting that detoxification process. And yes, the body has to get used to all these different things, but it does very quickly. The body adapts quickly. The digestive system adapts super quickly. So yeah, good conversation, intermittent fasting.
How do we then start to take on, or I want to take the next step? What's the next steps I want to take to improve their health, and then we can start going down some other roads? Because one reason why I really want to bring us together, and from the conversations we've had already, is like I've been so much in the physique world, and I feel like a lot of people can be doing it so much better, and especially from combining and really taking care of my health and really studying up on what and combining these two worlds. Like, how can I look good? How can I feel and function really well? And combining these worlds together.
Cool.
So one reason I'd really like to go down is colon cleansing, because this is something we've touched upon before, but I'd really love to touch on more as well. What do you just say to someone firstly? They're like, colon cleansing, oh, and they're kind of like totally backed off. How do you just kind of like break that conversation first?
So, any good nutritionist or naturopath or anybody who's dealing with health in general, if they're not somewhat focused on the colon and, transit time, then they really aren't very educated with health and nutrition. The body's a whole system of tubes. Your skin is tubes, your liver is a gathering of tubes. We have circulatory tubes that can wrap around the earth. The entire lymphatic system for cleaning out is tubes. And the largest tube in our body starts here, runs 10 meters, about 33 feet, and out the back door. This is the most important tube. And if that tube is getting gummed up with plaque, and it's slowing down, and it's having issues, then you're going to have skin conditions. Then you're going to have liver problems. Then you're going to have respiratory problems. Because it's the sewage system. It's just, it just makes sense, right? But it doesn't make a lot of dollars. But it makes sense. And it's this whole languaging around what makes sense. We actually say that in our language, like, well, the senses. What smells good? What is, visually attractive? And when we smell something, does it activate salivation? Because our salivation process produces enzymes to break down cellulose in plants. And does it taste good and does it feel good? Now, if we eat a lot of fiber, there's heaps of research from the American Cancer Society, Institute of Cancer Research, American Diabetes Association, American Heart Foundation that says the more fiber we eat, all of these diseases are reduced. So what is that saying? Well, the more plants you eat, the more you reduce your chances for disease. So, in general, it's like you can eat whatever you like, but we need to eat more plants to keep that whatever we like moving out. Okay? So, I find where people really start to experience tiredness, bad memory, just lowered vitality in general is because the digestive system's backed up. This is why pretty much the only products I sell, the only products I have sold for 20 years are a colon cleanse. The colon cleanse is so basic. It goes back to ancient Egypt. I've researched it. It's basic clays that will pull metals, herbicides, pesticides, and all the crap, even in present day, that we're putting in on and in foods. And it's just the basic fibers that will radically scrubber brush the whole digestive system, not just the colon. Clean the whole digestive system so that people have good transit time. And I would say to someone like, look, you can still eat red meat, you can still have chicken, you can still have these sorts of things, but how long is that sitting in your digestive system? If you're eating 3 or even 5 meals a day and you're pooing once, that's a major problem.
Yeah.
If you're pooing
5
twice,
goes in, but only 1 goes out.
yeah.
Like this.
If you're pooing only twice, that's still a problem.
Yeah.
The reality is, if you have good digestion, truly good digestion, number one, when I eat a meal and it fills my stomach, signals are sent to my brain for peristaltic action, and I have a poo.
Yeah.
Within typically 30 to 45 minutes is ultimate health.
Yeah.
Maybe an hour to 2 hours is still good.
Yeah.
But if you're eating a big meal,
Yeah.
and you keep going, and you eat another big meal, and you keep going, and you're eating another meal, and you keep going, that's a problem. This is where there's levels of plaque that, I really don't want to take the time right now to discuss how long it takes to get that stuff out. I've taken people on very extended programs of colon cleansing and fasting, and I'm talking about just complete water fasting. And the deep levels of plaque and parasites and stuff that most people don't think they have in people who look healthy, 20 to 30 days before the deep stuff starts coming out. And it's putrid, and it's plaque, and it's disgusting. So, I kind of went into that conversation anyway. But it's like, we're all full of shit in a massive way that we can't even understand. And even looking at us, we're like, oh, I look pretty good. But there's, just that little bit of stuff that builds up, a little bit more, a little bit more. And that is preventing us from optimally receiving and assimilating nutrition properly. Which is why even people are like, wow, I eat so good and I do all these things, but I have this issue, I got this stuff going on. It's like, well, if you only knew the level of plaque, which you could call plastic or rubber or whatever it is that's built up, that's preventing you from actually receiving the nutrition from the foods you're eating, the degradation of your stomach and your inability to produce hydrochloric acid over time. If your transit time is really good, then you're going to be doing fairly good no matter what you're eating. My dad used to talk about this all the time. Like, obviously I'd like to inspire people to eat more plants and to change their lifestyle, do more intermittent fasting, and really give it a solid crack. I'm talking like 30 to 60 days of doing it, and you'll start to understand why when you're onto it. But essentially, number one is like just cleaning it out, and we should be going within 45 minutes to an hour and all of this stuff. Number two, the way you can kind of check transit time is obviously if you haven't had corn, go get some corn, like, cut some corn or go get a can or whatever you got to do and eat a massive meal of corn. Now, most people will be like, yay, I'm excited because, they eat it for dinner and the next morning maybe they see a little bit of corn. Or maybe next day, around midday they have a good poo and they see some corn. Yay, it's moved. Well, just keep going and see how long it takes till you don't see any corn. So the idea is like have a massive meal of just corn and maybe some other foods. And then I want you to go and inspect. Like you're inspecting your bowel movements and see how long it takes till there's no more corn coming out. And most people will be at least 1 week.
Wow.
At least.
What should the time frame be?
48 hours.
Okay. Is this like first corn to no corn?
I'm talking,
Eat to no
I'm talking
corn.
like if you eat a whole thing of corn for dinner, by dinner the next night, you should have removed that meal, right? So it's like, you eat in the morning and you go poo, that's not the meal from the night before, but it's stuff that's it's in line. It's kind of like, there's 3 meals in line or something like that, and then each time you eat, there's the next one, the next one. So if I have corn at night, the next night it should be pretty much gone. If I'm still having corn the next day, not too bad. If I'm still having corn 48 hours, I'm probably constipated to a degree. But, you could probably have some people at the end of a week do a colon cleanse and still see corn coming out. Because they have crevices, because they have plaque, they have ulcerative colitis, leaky gut, like all kinds of things. And I do this thing called Iridology. And when I take a photo and I hold it up to your eyes and I blow your eye up really big and I can show you your digestive system, and you can see sometimes big black crevices, which is plaque in areas or potential parasites, and you can see ballooning of the colon, you can see strictures where it kind of closes off, you can see prolapsus, you can see all kinds of things just by looking at it. So that's where, if we look in our eyes and we see this, it's like, well, okay, this is what I've done to myself in the last 30 years, right? It's not going to heal overnight, but if I can start to make small changes of supporting detoxification, optimally appropriating and assimilating food. So the way that works is 8 hours in the morning for detox from 4 a.m. to noon, appropriate from noon to 6. The reason you stop eating around 6 is because it takes 2 hours to get out of your stomach if your last meal is a big dinner and proteins and different things. So by 8 o'clock, it's in the small intestine. And then we want to allow for an 8 hours of complete assimilation of those nutrients, which means if you're hoeing into some ice cream or food at 9, 10, 11, 12 o'clock at night, you're completely interfering with your body's ability to radically assimilate the nutrients you've already put in, because most of that energy goes back into the stomach to try to produce hydrochloric acid and break down all this crap that we continually put in.
This is why, and especially moving more, especially since we talked last time, moving more towards intermittent fasting, like giving your gut time to do its job, but then the blood can go elsewhere and do what it's need to. Otherwise, you're constantly there, constantly trying to break food down, and especially like in the physique, in the bodybuilding world, everything's like eat every 2 hours from the moment you wake up to like people slamming down shakes during in the middle of the night as their body never gets any time to rest and digest.
And people got like bad circulation called Raynaud's disease to their hands and feet, or they're got other kinds of bad circulation and even arteries and things that are varicose veins and no good flow to the brain and all this stuff. It's because it's all centralized all the time here. It's like we need to eat to live optimally, so appropriate properly, assimilate properly, and allow the flow and everything to ultimately suck up all the good nutrition and work and optimally work, and then go back into that process. You look back at even like Alexander the Great, Macedonian armies, Roman military campaigns, you look at the Spartans, you look at, all, especially for men, right? We talk about Sparta, and you talk about, Alexander the Great, Macedonian, all these like amazing military campaigns where, we as our ancestors took over the world. They lived exactly like I'm talking about, but even more. If you look at the actual records, they fasted all day. They carried 30 to 50 kgs of their equipment and their, they're frickin'
working.
Yeah, they're working their gherkin all day long and, walking 30 to 50 Ks with armor and all this type of stuff. And they knew if we all sit down at, 10 o'clock and eat a big meal, or we're eating as we're going, we're slowing ourselves down. So they would wait till night and they would make an encampment, and then they would consume a massive quantity of calories. And what they're doing is filling themselves up and giving themselves all the nutrition for the next day. So many people like, well, how am I going to have energy in the morning if I don't eat? Did you eat dinner last night? Like, people think that it's just a fire inside and you got to put the wood on to have a fire continually going. Your body is not, a fire.
It's
like
not as sensitive as that. We're not that delicate little snowflake.
Yeah, totally. That you have to eat all day long just to keep walking. Like, we would have never survived as a species if that was the case. Like, so the thing we got to understand is, as long as you get access to one good quality meal and allow your body to assimilate it properly, because your protein utilization and recycling and insulin sensitivity and all these things are so heightened because of the fasted state, you're going to get everything that you need. You're going to assimilate it. And the reality is, you could go more than just one day of full-on energy. In military campaigns, if you look into history, they did run out of food. And they still marched every day. And they still went to war. And they still did everything. And so it's like, we need to give ourselves more credit. there's such a massive store of essential amino acids in every cell of the human body. There's such a store of essential fats in all the body, in the muscles, around the body, in different places. Even when you're super lean, you still have a lot of fat that would carry you through at least 40 to 60 days on water only. And believe it or not, you would actually feel pretty damn good and have energy. Like,
I'm going to have to do it. I'm going to have to do this.
Please don't go fast. Please don't go fast 40 to 60 days. Please. Okay?
What about 24 hours fast? Because this is something, just personally myself, I've been using once a week now.
Yeah, beautiful.
I was only thinking about it because I'm flying tomorrow, and I usually do it just when I fly. So I'll have dinner tonight. I won't eat till dinner tomorrow night. Is this something you use often? Do you feel like people struggle with it?
Well, I think that people in general will struggle with it. But if you have enough reasons why, again, like Dr. Michael Mosley from the UK did a documentary, Eat Fast and Live Longer. And he's a guy who's sick, super IGF-1, saying, dude, you're gonna have cancer in the next 7 years. Like, he's like, what? I thought I was pretty healthy. And then he kind of introduced this medical scientific research that was there. He's the one that really introduced it to the world and said, hey, if you do fast 1 day a week, complete fast for 24 hours, IGF-1 is cut in half. Again, it's like if people didn't do intermittent fasting 6 days a week, but they at least did a whole 24, which is more like 36 hours, because you're not eating at night, you're not eating all day, you're not eating the next night, then that's the time the body goes into detox and gets rid of what it should have been doing every morning. So it's like, it's how do you want to do it? If I can build it into my lifestyle, I do it every day, and that's just naturally how I feel. I'm not hungry in the morning, I have major energy, my mind's working, all this stuff. That's what I want to do all the time. Now, anciently, they did that, and they would do 1 day a week. They called it keeping the Sabbath day holy. They said that it took 6 days for creation to be done, and on 1 day, God rested. And so all this is very specific allegory, as above, so below. It's kind of like stories that we can learn from if we have eyes to see and ears to hear, that we could be living in an optimal way of living and still get more of a rest. So most people think of, a day off as like sitting back and eating all day and resting. No. There's more energy being used for digestion than anything. So a true day of rest is 1 day of complete fasting. Even I admit, even I'm not doing that currently. I'm just doing the intermittent fasting, but sometimes things show up and I do that. So there's different levels of fasting for different reasons. For example, University of Southern California has done research that 3 days of a complete fasting is water fasting, by the way, 3 days of a complete fast completely destroys all the worn out old immune cells, completely destroys them, recycles them, and on introduction of food, our entire immune system is rebuilt because of the embryonic style stem cells that have been generated on those 3 days through ketosis. And I have the scientific literature and links, to show you from University of Southern California. There's been articles for the last year kind of like coming out, popping up that we've been seeing. Fasting regenerates the immune system, yada yada. Well, that's where it comes from. So 3 days of a complete fast, if you have autoimmune conditions, which many people are dealing with, if you have just a weak immune system in general, you get sick fairly often, you got stuff coming on, this is where the 3 days will completely reset. It's like taking an old worn out military of guys in their 60s that never were retired and retiring all of them and recruiting new guys, putting them through boot camp that are 18, 19, 20 years young, and creating a whole new military inside your body. That's essentially what's happening. So you're able to deal with things so much better.
Is there a larger, more of a macro cycle we can start to look at, such as how often should we want to do a 3 day fast now? Or like, is there kind of like a way you can help people start putting this into, all right, maybe every month do this, or every 3 months, or every year? How can this break down?
Yeah, so this is what I teach in my 3 day program and other programs, but essentially the idea is we want to keep the digestive system first and foremost clean and flowing. So the ancient Egyptian culture took 3 to 4 days. Now for Americans, Australians, you'll need 4 days.
Yeah.
Once you've been doing this for a while, you'll only need 2 or 3. On the new moon of every moon, they called it a month, it was a moon cycle.
Yeah.
On the new moon was the time that they would go into digestive cleansing for 3 days. So they'd eat very specific fibers and clays, and they would actually do colonics or enemas. All the way back in ancient Egypt, they were doing colonics. At the temples, they actually had systems that brought the water in. They would actually clean their bowels out. You know, Herodotus, different people pronounce his name differently, but the great Greek Herodotus that came and observed Egypt went back and reported. And this is in times of like Greek was like aqueducts and bathing and togas and philosophers and like ruling the world like the greatest advanced civilization of humankind. This guy went to Egypt and was like, we're a bunch of cavemen.
Wow, yeah.
Like the structure and the cleanliness and the disease that wasn't experienced in Egypt, and what these people were doing and their knowledge of the body, and they did brain surgeries back then, they did things that were phenomenal, was quite advanced. So if the ancient Egyptians were so advanced and knew so much that even we don't know about today, like ancient Egyptians knew what the appendix was for and what it did and how it functioned in the body. And today science is like, oh, it's some leftover piece of evolution. You know, that's just their excuse for not knowing what the hell it is or what it does. And now we're starting to discover it secretes, you know, certain lubricants for the ileocecal valve, and it's a vermifuge killing parasites in the digestive system, which was known about thousands of years ago. So, first and foremost, digestive cleansing every month. Then what I would say is intermittent fasting daily, to a degree. Pushing yourself, supporting the 4 channels of elimination before you eat, at least. And if you can start with some fresh fruit or fresh vegetables first to really hydrate and get the system going, fantastic. Then I would say every 3 months, a higher level of some form of reset to the body. 3 days would reset the immune system and really give the body a good detox. The reason for every 3 months is we move into a new season every 3 months. So we divide it into sections, and all these allegories are in the Bible. You know, like the Last Supper, you see 4 sets of 3 individuals that are the 12 cranial nerves, the 12 signs of the zodiac, and all these pictures I got around my room. So ultimately, if people like, I want to take it to the next level, I want to be super healthy, do intermittent fasting, clean the digestive system once a month, and every 3 months do maybe a little more. You know, I have an online juice fast completely free. People can access, learn how to support the channels of detoxification through defecation, urination, perspiration, respiration. I have breathing exercises you can download that are amazing. Skin cleaning activities, go back to ancient Egypt to really open the skin, keeping it beautiful. It's also a detoxification organ.
Is this like dry brushing?
Yeah, dry skin brushing and something called gua sha. And part of gua sha is they would actually take bicarbonate of soda and vodka. Ancient Egyptians distilled grains into an alcohol and put it together with minerals and cleaned the entire exterior of the skin, which opens it and cleans out bacteria, fungus, yeast, mold, even parasites and things that can live because we're constantly producing acid. So if you go down to that microscopic level of 7 layers of dermis and epidermis, there's stuff that lives in there that soap doesn't get to. Soap is like a surfactant. It cleans the surface. It's great. You can still use it, but it doesn't penetrate and really clean. So because we're constantly producing acid, the bicarbonate of soda alkalizes and kills all the acidic nature of growth, right? A lot of people have fungal infections, bacterial stuff, weird stuff going on in different places around their body, right? That I don't want to know about. But the thing is, if you have toe fungus, there's something major happening in your body that's a sign that you're acidic and you got some major fungal things going on. And you can try to attack it from the exterior, but that's not optimal. We need to clean out the interior and exterior of the body, support these channels, etc. So again, colon cleanse monthly, intermittent fasting daily. And for a lot of people, it's like do it 5 days a week, and then on the weekend, go have some breakfast, enjoy your family, relax. But if you just start that 5 days a week, eventually you'll get to where you're like, you know what, I don't want you to want to eat breakfast on the weekends because I feel like crap and I want to have more energy. And then like my 7-day juice fast online, drink some juices, do anywhere from 3 to 7 days every 3 months. Then you're going to start to hit those higher levels of energy, vitality, memory.
Beautiful. No, I think that's really important for people to be able to take on board, because this is how someone, the listener's going to be able to do this.
Bye, baby.
This is how they're going to be able to really easily put this into their life. And this is the most important thing. This is where we're kind of bringing to light, this is what you can do. Like, this is what you can do as of today, right now.
Totally.
And I totally believe in it. Like, and when we can want to combine the feel good, function great, and you want to be able to look really good, like going into the last, say, physique show that I did, I used intermittent fasting for that all the way coming in, because what's happening, insulin sensitivity is getting sky high, growth hormone production is going even better. Obviously you're able to actually go through lipolysis, so mobilization, transportation, oxidization of body fat in a better state as you're doing it as well. So all these things as you go through, like it all works together. Like this is so beautiful how the two worlds combine so well.
And if people want to have a great physique and this guy's doing it, and you look at Nunam and Raw, like he's taking it to the whole next level. The cool thing is, I'm by no means a bodybuilder. My whole thing's about education and health in general. But we should, be strengthening ourselves and everything else. I'm on tour for 5 weeks, hardly doing anything. I come back and do like maybe 2 strength training sessions, and my body just transforms quickly because of the human growth hormone, because everything's in alignment. I don't have to do much, and I look pretty good. So I know, like, if I really dedicated myself to high intensity training and strength training and some of these things, I could be, if that was my goal.
But I think that's where it's whatever floats your boat and whatever someone wants to do. If they want to be more yoga based, then fantastic. If they want to do Zumba, go for it. It's awesome. Whatever gets your body moving that you enjoy, puts a smile on your face. I think that's really important.
Just keep pooping and just keep
please
make sure everything's moving.
It's good.
Health is the most important key. And a big part of that is, what we're putting in and when we're putting it in and who we're putting it in with, how fast we're putting it in, and, all these factors. You are what you eat, when you eat, who you eat with, all these important things to kind of look at, which is a great conversation for sure.
Beautiful. Okay, is there any last loving thoughts you want to leave everyone right now?
Just the last loving thought would be, really look at the energy of, what you're putting out, because it's all vibrational. If I am in a good mood, and I'm saying good things and love myself and loving others, I'm more attracted to eating fruits and vegetables. I'm more attracted to exercising. I'm more attracted to all the things that vibrate highly. And vice versa, if I'm eating really low dense foods and I'm not moving my body, I'm more likely to be pissed off and angry and upset and causing shit in my relationships. So, I think the most important thing that we can do beyond all of this is simply love each other and generally work on ourselves and love ourselves first. So, my last message would be, be very conscious of what you're saying and your thoughts, and just try to pick that up. And if you can do that first, I think everything else will start to go in that way. Or if you can force everything else to go in that way, then our thoughts and our beliefs and what we're saying will improve as well.
It's like your physical actions are going to therefore actually create the emotions of what's going on. So it's a hack to the system being able to do it. But what's totally wild was, as actually the book that I was listening to on the bike riding thing is The Untethered Soul, and it was going on about how consciousness and is so important. It's so funny how you just brought the word up, being conscious and aware. It's just, that's so important. So I really appreciate that.
You have to send me a link. I'll have to download that.
I will. Thank you so much.
Cool.
I really appreciate that.
This is where I want to make sure that you get the most out of being here, and I want to hear from you. So if you've enjoyed this episode, click like and make sure I can send you the new episodes each and every week. Be sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell. Also, I really want to make sure that I'm giving you exactly what you need. So comment below. I want to know what you're going to take away from this episode. And the best conversations after every episode always happen in the Breaking Success Tribe. I'll pop a link below for you to join the free group so you get access to the guides, the live streams. I'm in there answering your questions personally each and every day. Plus you get all the episodes as well. So thank you so much for being here and joining us. I'm really looking forward to seeing you in the next episode.